Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start recording. Everybody else set?
Yes, and then if you want to. Okay, thanks, Dad. You got it, it's going.
Is it recorded?
Darling, just right there.
No, she just said it's on.
Darling
Facebook.
has it right here.
It will say recording in process.
But what about,
Click on.
it is for the recording?
There you go.
It doesn't seem like anything's hit.
I'll call this Town of Vinalhaven Board of Selectmen's meeting to order for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. Roll call, Tom Anthony, Lad Olson, Dawn Young, Leslie Dyer, myself, and Marjorie Stratton. Deputy Town Clerk is absent. Number 2, appoint select board chair and vice chair. And if we want, since the board did not change, we can do a consensus of the board. Everybody agrees that we want it to, not everybody, but consensus of the board if we want to keep it the same.
I think we can take a vote, like we know,
Well, then you can make a motion.
motion to,
Who would you like to nominate?
I'll nominate Ken.
Okay, second,
Second.
all in favor? And
Just a second, I'm sorry.
I second that.
Okay.
And then we need to have a nomination for vice chair.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
favor? Okay. Tom,
I'm used to taking notes.
if that's okay. If you want us to slow down, just say.
Well, it's going to be recorded.
Right.
She can just do it.
Yeah. Number 3, approve agenda. All in favor? 4, minutes, approve minutes from June 25th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Is everybody here? You want. Okay, all in favor? Number 5, approve and sign treasurer's warrant number 2. All in favor? Okay, we've moved 9A, emergency ambulance vessel discussion with Rick Petrie. And we moved that up to 5.5.
Well, it was down on.
It was down in 9A under old business.
Would you like?
Wherever you feel comfortable. Hi.
For 21, 23 years of regionally customer area, which my job was to support EMS agencies with education, training, doing all kinds of projects, and just making sure they had what they needed. And for many of those years, we off and on would deal with island transport patients off the island when somebody was hurt. You guys all remember?
I was just gonna
Should we turn
ask.
it to?
Yeah,
Because it's.
you wanna turn it in.
Responsible for increasing the humidity of
Yeah.
maybe now with the fan off, it's good. So we've been dealing for years and years off and on with transport issues with all of you, right? Depending on and everybody's responsible for we're kind of working on a system. And what we heard about, was whenever there was an emergency call, and not just here, but anywhere, is that there was an EMS crew that responded, and somebody was responsible for thinking about, okay, how are we gonna get them off the island, right? Lifeline is a valuable resource for patients who are critically ill and injured, as long as they're able to fly, right? But they're a critical component. Penobscot Island Air has been a major, supporter, of the program, and again, but they can't fly at night. And the ferry service has been, a major component and supporter as well, but they're starting to have difficulty, right? And they really don't like, to go out once they've docked at the end of the day, because it creates a problem. So, we've been dealing with this issue for years and years. So I was the executive director of Atlantic Partners EMS. Now I'm a special projects advisor. Rob is the new executive director for Atlantic Partners. Martin is with me. You may know Martin from other endeavors, but he works with a group that actually he was able to get us to go over to Norway to look to the country of Norway that has a very similar situation with a bunch of islands off of the mainland, and that they service with ambulance boats. So we had this idea that came to fruition about a year and a half ago. We started looking at it about what the options are and what we can do, right? And so we went and looked at this project they have in Norway, where they have an ambulance boat that's staffed with 3 people: a captain, a mate, right term, mate, who's also cross-trained as an EMS provider, and a paramedic. And they respond out to the islands, and they provide care, and they transport the patients, right? We started looking at it. We really started to get interested in that, and then we had a preliminary meeting with DOT Main Ferry Service, and they were very clear with us that if at all possible, they wanted to get out of the EMS patient transport business. It created problems for them. If they get called out, there are stringent regulations by the Coast Guard about when they can activate. The requirements under which they can activate. It's supposed to be a life-threatening emergency or something. Bona fide emergency. Yeah, bona fide emergency is the right term. And when they do, they have to push everything back during the day. So their thing was, if the islands were to come up with a plan to operate it, they would be willing to look at capitalizing it. In other words, by the boat. If the islands could come up with a way to operationalize. So we started thinking about, does it make sense for each of the islands to have a boat that they operate? Or would it be a better utilization to have an ambulance boat running to serve the islands, right? And that's staffed with a paramedic, a ship's captain, and a mate who's also an EMS provider. We went and looked at this boat. The boat's really nice. It has the ability to have an ambulance stretcher similar to what an ambulance has. It also has a regular stretcher inside, so there's a treatment room, and some patients can be transported, or we could even look at down the road, if the program got up and running, we could look at treat and place scenarios where somebody may not even have to leave the island, right? And we have a pilot program in Maine at the complete opposite of the end of the spectrum from where you are, up in Jackman, Maine, where paramedics are treating using telehealth and treating some patients so that they don't have to leave and go to the hospital, right? There's a lot of possibilities here, but the way that works is if the islands together and agree to have, a joint system, a system that they can work together. And so we started floating this idea. We started bringing people together. Ryan's been at the meeting. We invited representatives from each of the islands. We also have people from the coast, from the mainland that have been participating as well. The Emergency Management Agency, the Ferry Service, and various representatives. Shelley Pingree's office reached out to us recently, is very interested in this project as well. And so we have a lot of interest in this. And so what we're trying to do is get people to come together. One of the things, I'll tell you right off the bat, one of the things that we heard very early is we're interested in talking about this. We cannot pay for it. And that's coming from the islands, right? The islands don't see a clear path to being able to pay to operate. We're looking at somewhere around, the boat is around $5 million. right? But that would be, but the ferry service again is offered to, if the islands can come together with a plan to operationalize it, the ferry service is offered to consider buying a boat, right? So then the question becomes operationalize this. So we're looking at somewhere about $2.5 million a year to run the service. And what that would be is $2.5 million to run it. And what that would mean is that it's fully funded. It's fully funded, which means that every time it runs, you don't get a bill, meaning that the island doesn't get a bill, the service doesn't get a bill, the patient doesn't get a bill for the boat transport. In this case, Vinalhaven would respond, they would treat the patient, we would meet, we would transfer care of the patient to the boat, they would go to the mainland, and then the patient would be transported from the mainland to the hospital. And there would be no charge for the boat, for the boat trip, or for the care that was administered there. So $2.5 million, and we know it can't come from the islands, we know that. So, but we have legislators who have said that they are willing to put the bill in for the funding to come from the state of Maine. Where that goes, I don't know, but they're willing to put the legislation in the next session to pay for this, so that the islands don't have to pay for this. We talked about adding a surcharge on the tickets, right? And the reason we talked about that is because we wanted tourists to help pay for this. Basically, we wanted tourists to help pay for this. The problem with that is if you add a surcharge to the ticket, the people who live here, the residents of the islands, pay as well. And so we realized that was a non-starter. So what we're trying to do is to put together and see if we can come up with all of the islands in this area to come together, develop a consortium with an oversight committee where everybody gets to provide somebody who's part of that. Every island is represented, and we develop an operation system. And hopefully, our plan is to get it funded by the state of Maine to create an ambulance boat off the coast of Maine, who would be out here to support, not take over for, but support the EMS agencies that are out there already. By putting a paramedic on there, you can get a paramedic who responds to the island and comes out and supports the EMS agency that's out there. But we also recognize that if we put the consortium together and we can't get the funding, it's not going to default to you. If we can't get the funding from outside, then the program doesn't go. We just don't do it, because we've heard very loud and very clear that the islands can't pay for this. So what we want, but in order for this to move forward, we need to come together as a group. We need to show them that the islands are united. We want to have this, and we're going to come together as a group. We know how we're going to operate it. We just need the money to be able to do it. So I've been trying to give you an overview, but I'll stop and see if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns. So how do you want?
Marjorie, go ahead.
I guess I don't understand what's the benefit to, like, say that the boat is housed here at Vinalhaven
Sure.
and Swans Island has a call. I can't see how that boat would get to Swans Island before they could find some other means of getting somebody to the mainland.
Those places are telling us that they're struggling to find somebody, and right
Mhm.
now, what they're resorting to in a number of cases are really really big-hearted lobstermen who are putting these patients on a lobster boat and getting them off. And the problem is that is not the ideal transport system for somebody who's been sick or seriously injured. The lobstermen, the local community, people with the boats, lobstermen, other people have really stepped up to help out when life flight's not available. The Coast Guard does not want to be the primary responders. Marine Patrol will help out, but they don't want to be primary responders. And so if they can get onto the ferry, that's great. Then the key is getting back, as you know, right? But the reality of it is in a lot of cases, it's defaulting to a local resident who's willing to make their boat available, and those are not designed for patient transport or treatment. So the reality of it is that what is the drive time from here to Swans Island? Not drive time, sorry. A little over an hour. About an hour, right? The reality is that.
What's top speed for this boat?
What's that?
What's the top speed?
35 knots.
35 knots.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna do that in all the weather. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be using this in not good weather, because if it's good weather, the plane's gonna fly, life flight's gonna come.
Yeah.
Um,
As long as it's not at night. And as long as it's a critical patient.
yeah,
Right.
I thought came,
They do,
the islands.
they do come at
They
night.
come,
Yeah.
they come to the islands,
What?
if the islands need them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if the patient's critical, right? Life flight shouldn't, but the problem is if life flight's flying to pick up a patient that's not critically ill or injured, that's a huge bill that isn't reimbursed by insurance. And life flight is part of this committee, and they've expressed support for this concept because of that very issue. Right? Life flight is a critical care of response and transport. They have very well-trained, highly trained people, and using them when when the patient's critically ill or injured, is absolutely the appropriate way to go.
So my other question is, not really a question, but except in rare cases, the ICMS medical provider has already triaged the patient and made the decision that they're in transport to the
Right.
hospital.
Yep.
You were talking about having them treated on the boat and not having to go to the hospital.
Right.
Like
And
if
so
they're having
that's-
diagnostics or something.
So that'll be less of an issue here, more of an issue on the islands that don't have a clinic, right? But you're absolutely right. You've got your medical provider here who's doing all that.
So that being the case, wouldn't one of the islands that doesn't have a clinic here, but a 24 hours ago.
The problem is we're trying to figure out where to position it, where we keep the response time to no longer than an hour. And so that's why we're coming up with here.
you're not getting a boat from here to Swans Island from the time someone makes a call in an hour.
How long are we getting it? How long is it gonna take us to get
If
there?
you get it there in 2 or 3 hours, I'd be amazed by the time someone made a call.
But, well, we definitely need to make sure that when they get a call, that the boat is activated. When they have a call, the boat is activated, right? But still, and the EMS agencies on all the islands right now realize that transportation off of the island is a problem. And so in a lot of cases, they're making those arrangements from the time the call comes in.
So where's the staff gonna be housed?
If it was wherever it's here, this is where the crew would be.
Phil, did you
And
have
we
a
have to-
question?
Housing on the island?
We need to find a place to house them.
That's gonna be a challenge.
Phil, did you have a question? You had your hand up, at the same time Dinah did, so I thought,
I was gonna ask if the boat had a galley and a sleeping berth. Apparently it doesn't.
It does not, it has a galley, the boat certainly could, yeah,
I mean, that would be the answer.
Tom,
That would be the answer, yeah.
can wait,
it can sleep right on the
on
boat.
board.
Dawn,
What is the reason that Penobscot Air can't fly at night? Is it
It's-
because they don't have a pilot that's night qualified?
That is something I don't know the answer to because I don't work with them or closely, but that's what they've told us, and they told us in Ryan, what was the meeting that we were just at where he?
Yeah, so it's largely an insurance issue, and then the second part is runway maintenance and setup. There's some issues with our runway with coming in on either directions with to do with trees on land that we don't own. Some of that we've been able to mitigate a bit. Some of it we're gonna have issues fully addressing to really solve that, and then insurance is the other part. Staffing was also mentioned when I talked to Chris a while ago, but I believe they've been bringing on some more pilots, so they're working to address that. So it could be done, but there would be a big insurance ask and some runway work. to
But-
be done.
You know, for the kind of money we're talking here, that could be an economical situation we could live with. If we could fund that probably a lot cheaper, we could fund the boat.
It could be, but that won't solve the problems for the rest of the islands either, right?
Well, why not?
Because I don't think they have access to to a number of the islands.
Montinicus, but Monhegan doesn't, but certainly Montinicus.
Yep.
I'm sure Swans Island probably does, North Haven does,
So
yeah, Crehaven does.
now the other thing I just want to, I may get your hand up. I just want to tell you. I want to make sure you understand, this is not me or the group coming to you and saying, you have to do this. This is us coming to you and saying, we've been talking about this problem for 10 or 15 years. And it rears its ugly head every once in a while. It's getting worse. And the ferry service is right up front about the fact that they're struggling with staffing and they would like to get out of the ambulance transport business or patient transport business. So what we're doing is when we saw that there was an option, we thought we would put it out there.
Yeah.
And say, here's a potential option if we can come together as a group. And so if this doesn't work, if the islands don't want to do this, then it goes away, right? I mean, it just goes away. But what I would like to see is for us to come together as a group of, is the islands come together and say, what would it need to look like for it to work? Let's put that together and see if we can hit all of those points. We can get it, see if we can get it funded by the state, see if we can get DOT to buy the boat. See if we can get a place for them to dock and to stay. Whether it be that we put a galley on the boat, a galley and sleeping quarters on the boat. Or we're able to find a place here or wherever for them to sleep. Looking at existing resources. But it also doesn't make sense for us to move forward and try to cross all those Ts and dot those Is if the islands don't want to do that. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think we're still, as a group, know we have a problem.
Yeah,
And it's not just the ferry service, it's islanders who have appointments and whatever.
sure.
Then you never know when you're gonna get off when you need to get off.
Right.
So it's a real issue. We're not challenging that.
Yeah.
The question is, what would be the most economical solution that provide for all the islands? Because I share the same concern. If there's a problem in Monhegan or other places, it's a ways away. It's life threatening. It's not like you can get there like.
Well, the good news is that all of those places have responders on the island. They can deal with life-threatening problems, bleeding, CPR, respiratory distress. They all have very well-trained EMS providers on the island. And this is also not designed to replace anything. Penobscot Island Air doesn't go away. We talked about this, Ryan and I talked about this. You guys have a really good relationship. During the day, if Penobscot Island Air can fly that patient, we don't want this to take the place of what you have in place. Or if the patient's critically ill or injured, we still want Lifeline to fly out here if they can, right? We're not trying to replace anything. Also thinking about it, is there something we can do to shore up the existing system to do what you're, to get to what you're talking?
The
I
other
think-
thing would be,
I-
if you're somebody in Monhegan and then somebody in Vinalhaven needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing happens now. If you have multiple calls at the same time, we have to triage those patients, which is why we're not trying to replace anything. The Coast Guard will always said that we will always be willing to be there to be third or fourth in line to call. The Marine Patrol said the same thing, the local lobster, Penobscot Island there. That's why we're trying we can't replace anything because invariably there will be a patient on Monhegan and a patient here or a patient, right? But when we look at it, the call volume in each of those islands is low, right? Figuratively speaking, right? So, so the key is it's also not taking the responders off of the island. Right, the responders are still gonna be there to provide care, respond, and try to do that. We will run into those. I would be foolish not to acknowledge that. We run into that on the mainland. We have a problem on the mainland with EMS response, right? There was a car accident in Bar Harbor last year. 2 cars hit head on, and they were able to put 1 ambulance and a life flight unit on the scene. The next ambulance came from Bangor
Yeah.
because of all the things that were going on. Those are real life issues that we deal with every day.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I just wonder, you've got to find a place to dock the boat. That is not Vinalhaven. We do not have a place to keep a vessel like this out here. And that to me is a huge problem. And then to make sure the funding stays consistent year after year after year and doesn't end up falling on the islanders. Those are my 2 concerns. Marjorie, you had I'm sorry, whoever wants to add.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have a couple questions and then I'll have an opinion. This $2.5 million operating cost, is that counting like every 5 years, it's gonna have to be shipyard and hull inspection and maintenance and Coast Guard, would that include all of that?
All included in this.
Okay, so that seems low to me. My other opinion on this is, it's been noted that the islands don't want to pay for it. We can't pay for it. And I personally don't think going to the state or asking for funding, it's other state tax-paying people's problem because we choose to live on the island. By living out here, you take some inherent risk. And I don't think it's correct for the rest of the state to fund a large endeavor like this because we choose to live here. That's my opinion.
Can I speak? So I just wanted to try to move this along. There are some questions that Rick asked to the entire group of islands. And I mean, the main question is, do you see a way forward to develop an island consortium that will operate an ambulance boat, either by a 501c3 or enter into some other agreement like the existing one with APEMS? So I think just to try to move this along, could you ask, the board, is there a consensus among the select board to move forward with this? And then just in addition to that, I also think about the problems of, they are looking at Vinalhaven for docking space and also for the shoreside power, and then the lodging. I mean, we're already have an extremely, a problem with finding housing for anybody. So this would be adding on to that, but I think that we
I was
need
just-
to.
I was just gonna let Phil ask his question and then we can do
Well,
that,
I think without a question, housing on the island is utterly question.
right?
And the only way to solve that is to have a galley and sleeping berth on board or on the boat. Where are the other 5 islands?
Just have to keep it in.
We're going, I just sent that email you just read, you went out to the island, just a week ago or so.
So we don't know whether we have consensus yet.
That's what I'm trying to do, is go to each of the islands and say, do we have consensus? Because it doesn't, if we don't have consensus that to come together as all the islands and build this consortium, then the DOT won't commit.
I understand, so we don't have consensus yet.
We don't.
The other thing is, Lad, you said that it was unlikely we would get legislation like that passed. But the state already funds the ferry service, 50% of the ferry service. And I know a lot of legislators, in fact, worry about even bringing that up because they're afraid that maybe that hasn't come to the attention of inland as yet, but nonetheless, that's what's happened. And enough said, yeah.
So have any other islands had any comments, consensus? Any?
Yeah, we have received comments. Overall, there appears to be support of the concept from all the islands, all the people that participated, with the caveat of we're not paying for this, right? I mean, that's been pretty clear, Ryan. You've been in the.
Well, we are, but not directly.
What's that?
Then we are, but not directly. We're still state taxpayers.
We are. What we're doing is diluting the pot, right? I mean, absolutely. And I think your points are valid. Somebody's going to pay for this because there's no way this is free, right? And so, but there's general consensus that this is a good idea and worth looking at, but in order to do that, we need to be able to come together as a group and say, okay, let's move forward with this. But what are the bits and pieces? What do we need to make sure we deal with? We need to deal with docking, we need to deal with housing, we need to deal with staffing. And we need to find a way to pay for it, right? And so if the group can come together and we can find a way to consistently pay for it, and we find a place to dock it and that solves the housing issue, whether it be that we build a boat with a galley and sleeping quarters, whatever that is. If we can cross those T's, then now we have a plan to move forward, right? And we have something to go to the state with and say, please put in the legislation and DOT, the islands have come together and this is what they would like.
Okay, I'll take 2 more questions. Laura, you had your hand up.
How big is the boat?
It's 70,
Yeah.
some
70 feet. It's a good sized boat. It really is. It's divided into 3 sections right now, which is one is the front, the cabin. There's a middle section
Well, if you wanna
That's a seating
pass them
area,
over to
and then
them,
there's
so-
back section for treatment. It's got a scissor lift on it that goes, they can go from down at water level up to, I think 10 feet, up to get to be able to accommodate different docks. It also has a water cannon on the front of it, so that it could support, firefighting operations as well.
Oh, interesting. Philip. I scared you when I called you Philip.
Oh, the dock. Dock, you know, right now, the group is talking to the DOT about the crib work on the harbor side of the ferry split,
Right,
which would accommodate that. I can't think of many other places in the harbor, that's for sure. And I've talked to the harbor master about it, and he said certainly not, but that's a possibility.
well, I certainly would recommend that we continue supporting this for the exploratory part. To keep moving forward so that we all, each island at least would have a consensus that we would. Want you to continue working on it and come up with whatever. You know, I can't see the legislature either approving the money, but it's worth a try.
You know,
mine,
we've got
to
2 or
me,
3
I don't know how-
legislators who've been attending the meetings. Val, is it Val?
Yeah.
Valerie
Val's,
Geiger.
yeah, and she's the one who said, I will put the legislation in. We had the
Who is
chair,
that?
Val Geiger.
She lives in Rockland.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
No.
And,
So if I could get a consensus of the board to continue support for the project,
As long as the other five, as long as the other islands are on board, there's no harm in talking and.
Right.
And exploring the options, on a personal level, I don't know how the outlook works, but, there's no harm in talking about it.
right, continue the exploring
I
possibilities.
mean, I kind of agree with Tom. I will say no, this gets talked about. Every few years this comes up and it always comes up as not feasible. So,
So you say no,
yeah,
okay, you say yes? Dawn,
I'm concerned, about. the
just for
ferry
yes and,
service.
can you just yes or no, or,
Well,
for the
but I'm saying,
consensus,
doing
so we
that
can move
concern,
along?
Give it, yes, but I'll let you explain my yes or no.
okay,
Quickly.
Yeah.
I think I go along with the look at it, but I'm dubious that it's gonna be much benefit or acceptable to the other islands as it would be to Vinalhaven. But we have a real issue and we need to find a solution to it. This is one of the options.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, the other islands, are saying that they have a problem. That they have, that their problem is worse than yours, because they don't have a clinic on the island,
yeah,
right?
I'm fine with the exploratory.
okay.
Yeah,
Consensus, yes, okay, and so we have a consensus to continue. Audrey.
Dubious, so I have.
Well, I don't see any harm in people, I mean, we've got to find a solution for the problems we have.
And I do understand the reticence, right? Except that right now we have a problem. That just keeps percolating.
Right,
And maybe this is the answer, maybe it isn't the answer, but I don't think we know that until we go through and see if we can address the issues that you've identified.
okay,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, I have just one comment. I don't know if it's worth mentioning that you have a vehicle that you can utilize as a not-for-profit organization, the Atlantic Partners EMS.
Right, there's the organization that I am a special project advisor for is a regional EMS agency. They're a 501(c)(3). So that could be an option, because if you create a consortium, you're gonna need a 501(c)(3) operation in order to run it, right?
Mhm.
Now, I anticipate that they're gonna be the whoever that is gonna be the operational group. They're gonna contract out for the boat and the operation, but. So there is a 501(c)(3) operation that is in place right now that has expressed an interest in being that vehicle for you. So that you don't have to create a new 501(c)(3).
Non-boat related, whoever's got the white Volvo, the windshield wipers, they're still going, so assume the car is on.
That would be you, man.
Yeah.
Well, there. He's ready for
May not have
rain.
been- may not have been business related, but it's important, right?
Okay, so I
So,
think,
Thank
we-
you very much.
yeah, no, we appreciate you coming
And I'm happy to come back and report to you on a regular basis about, where we are. And I certainly will report to you about what the other islands. are.
yes, anything you have to add to all of this.
Yeah, because the reality of it
helpful.
is you're right. If everybody's not on board, then it becomes a different issue.
Exactly.
But thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate you coming and thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing updates when you get them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Now you can go to your other meeting.
One.
Oh, ever just.
Thank you.
Bye now. Okay, moving on. Communications? Marjorie?
This is where we were going to address the letter from,
Mhm.
that Alan presented.
Do you want me to
So,
read the letter?
This letter has been floating around for a bit. It's a letter to the governor from the islands. And I don't know, Alan, if you would like to elaborate on it.
Yes, I don't have my copy with me.
Oh, here.
But what it is, with the staffing and everything that's been happening with the ferry, the advisory board. One of the members of the advisory board wrote a letter, penned a letter to the governor. And they passed it around the advisory board and said, we need to do something, how, is this the way we want to go? So we all said, yeah, that looks great. The members wanted to have their associated islands look it over. Because we're a voting member for the island, but we aren't speaking, we aren't the only one speaking for the island. So we're the last select board to say yay or nay on whether they want to advise the board to send this letter to the governor. And I thought it was well written, it addresses everything we need. It's not pointing blame at anybody other than.
Right,
The only ones that are to blame are the elected people that put the cap on the number of people we can have, and put the cap on how much money we can spend. Guy in Rockland knows he needs 10 captains, but if he doesn't have the authority to hire 10 captains, his hands are tied, so you can't blame him.
I think it looks,
But they have gone out and they've got a temporary agency from Indiana, I believe it is, that's providing a short-term relief crew. I don't know how the union's gonna feel about it, but
I know they're expensive.
they're very expensive. The ABs are making more, the temporary ABs are making more
More
than
than
that
the
full-time
captains.
captains. That have been on for 20-odd years, so they're not too happy.
Yeah, for a 12-hour shift, they're getting $595 a day.
That's just the ABs.
Right.
The captains and the engineers are getting a lot more than that.
so who wrote this letter?
I got it from Rick Latimer, but I don't know.
That's
here.
Rick is the one that wrote it, yeah.
Okay, all
It's
right,
a good letter.
I'm just
It is a
curious.
good letter.
So what do we just say to go, do we
Yeah,
have to
we
make
gotta
a
just need
a
a
Motion to,
a motion?
motion to approve the letter?
Yeah.
Tell-
What's that?
Tell Rick to send it.
Yeah. All right, I would make a motion that we have this letter sent to the governor's office, the governor specifically.
So moved.
Second, everybody in favor? Okay.
Yep.
Mail it away.
Thank you very much. I will send John a.
Was there a clear second? on that?
Yes.
yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
I'm gonna let John tell Rick to
Okay, good.
fire up his printer.
I'm sure that we'll hear immediately and get a wonderful positive response.
That's an election year, we might hear something.
If
Maybe,
she got stuck out here when she was out here, that might have,
that's right.
yeah.
Those people-
You're right,
stuck
Tom.
out
Good point.
But she had another revolt.
Those people don't get stuck out here.
No, she didn't come on the ferry.
Yeah, I'll leave on the ferry.
Cancel the ferry for her.
No. Oh, dear. Speakers from the floor. Dinah Moyer.
Yes, so Diana Moyer, Executive Director at ICMS. I wanted to kind of give you all an update about some of the conversations from the community forum and to clear up a couple of things. So in the grant application that was submitted last year and approved by HRSA, who is our funder, it says Vinalhaven, the EMS fire departments, volunteer first responders provide emergency response throughout the island. An on-call ICMS provider serves as the medical provider for emergency runs. ICMS also offers after-hours coverage services for patients by offering telephone triage and either home visits or visits at the office outside of normal clinical hours. So the emergency question, whether the providers were covered or whatever, yes, they are. So our providers will continue to
Mhm.
provide emergency services to Vinalhaven. It wasn't a letter that was received, it was someone put in, it's called a ticket. You put in a ticket with the question,
Right,
and that was the question, and however it was worded, I don't actually have the ticket, but that was where that information came back from, but in the actual grant application that was approved, that's exactly what it says. I can email it to you or give you a piece of paper.
Okay.
So, and, the medical center is not gonna be asking for funding from the town.
thank you, Dinah.
So I want to just clear those things up, because I
Thanks.
think they've kind of been still,
Festering.
well, people are still wondering, and I.
Well, we
thought,
never
oh,
got
just
any
come
clear
here.
answers from
Right.
anybody about anything.
Right.
You know, it was just always confusion and,
No transparency.
I'm not gonna say lies, but mistruths.
So
But
that's
just-
the actual document, which I'm happy to send you. If you'd like it, but.
Yes, if you wanna, email it to Marjorie, then she can email it to us, or you
Yeah,
can email it to all of us, however you wanna do it.
sure, okay, I'll send it to Marjorie probably, because I don't think I've everybody's seen that.
Okay, we're all the same. P. Alley, Vinalhaven, townofvinalhaven.org,
Okay.
if you wanna.
Okay, I can do that. I can-
Or you can go on our website and find all of that information.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I may do that.
Okay.
I did look for the agenda today.
Oh,
So I don't know if
good.
anybody has any questions, but
We're
Thank
happy
you.
that things seem that they've calmed down and
Very happy to have you back. in
Thank
the
you.
happy
driver's
that you're
seat.
back.
thank you.
Glad
Okay,
it,
so if you have any questions, I put my email in the end every week.
I know where you live.
Well,
He likes it.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, he's cutting the rudder down to make it a little.
Well, there.
You know,
Speed,
nice.
speed is important.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dinah.
Okay.
Alrighty, number 8, committee and departmental reports and appointments. 8A, appoint municipal officers. So,
This is I think you might have,
everybody has that,
okay.
I think,
These are the
Um,
mandatory appointments that are required
right?
by,
So can we do it in one lump sum and make a motion to appoint each municipal officer that's listed? Does that
Yep,
sound
yep.
like a good
Let's
motion?
do it. Yep,
Okay, all right, second,
second.
all in favor? Okay.
Good.
Everybody kept their jobs, Marjorie.
we should probably at some point, I'll put it on the agenda, though, we should probably discuss the town manager position. I have one more year on my
Right.
contract, but as we all are, I'm aging. But it's probably a discussion that we should have
Yes,
about next steps and how you want to deal with that, but I can put that on as an agenda item.
good, you know that, I was thinking about that today,
Yeah,
good.
Automatic renewal clause.
Yes, you don't get to leave.
Well, certainly.
Okay.
You let us know what their plans are too.
Any other questions? 8B, boards and committees appointments.
so, when you look at this list, most of these, committees just, simply serve at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen. The planning board is a quasi judicial board. So that one I would, pay a little bit more attention to, but I don't have any problem with the appointees.
Well, we have, Lane's Island Stewardship Committee. Anna Lane would like to be appointed.
So that's an addition. Oh,
Yes. Oh, last year, my daughter Anna tried to join the committee as well and was in touch with Marjorie. I believe she turned 18 in April. Or maybe she wasn't old enough to be on a committee. I don't know. And is still interested in joining. Is that possible? So, Lane's Island. Oh, Dino
I'm
left.
not sure what's gonna happen to that committee after this fall, because right now, Lanes Island, that area is owned by the Nature Conservancy. And we have a simple maintenance agreement with the Nature Conservancy for, just to keep the road maintained and to do a minimum amount of maintenance at the park. But after this fall, the Maine Coast Heritage Trust will take over control and ownership of that park. So I've been in contact with Maine Coast Heritage Trust. I'm not exactly sure what will happen. I would expect that our agreement with the Nature Conservancy will become null and void.
Mhm.
And the
I hope.
Maine Coast Heritage Trust will seek some other agreement. I'm not sure. So just as a aside.
I think that the stewardship committee is exactly that. They take care of the picnic tables,
Mhm.
clean up trash, do that kind of thing. Kirk does the tech control and the brown tail moth and tries to keep trails open.
Mhm.
So I think that's what they do. But anyway, I would make a motion that we appoint Anna Lane to the Lanes Island Stewardship Committee for 1 year.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Okay. And then we have the Ferry Tariff Advisory Committee. And Chet and Cheryl have,
Well, they hadn't, they have been on it
Right.
previously, but they hadn't responded. They just said, yes, they would like to continue.
if you were looking at your old,
Yeah.
so they're gonna stay on. And then,
The library, is the library trustees on here somewhere?
you should be,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, right here. So
jeez.
there was
Oh.
one opening.
There's one opening.
Yeah.
Ann Mason
Step
does
down.
not want to continue. So she has a, appointment through 2027. Yeah, so we had,
We have 3 requests, Chris Osgood, Willie Drury, and Holly Young. And I would make a motion that we appoint Chris Osgood to the library board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? So she can go on in place of Ann Mason. And she sent, her letter was dated first also, which I took that into consideration where we had 3 people.
Yep.
She's also an English teacher, so.
Mm-hmm.
So
And is that it for
we
that?
just need to approve everybody.
We
on
have to
this list.
approve the
Yeah.
boards, make a motion that we approve the boards and committees members as listed on this piece of paper here.
1 second. Patrick Quinn got done on the sewer commission,
He's resigned, yes.
so we don't need
Oh.
to. fill
There is a
that.
no on there. Yeah, it says no on there.
Ross
And Ross
Tabor on the
Tabor.
Cross Commission.
He's gonna stay throughout the summer.
Okay.
And then we'll look for somebody else when he steps down, but he said he would stay through the summer.
Just checking.
Yes, Patrick Trainer, stepped down from both sewer and water, Vinalhaven Water District, so. Alrighty, so that's, did you second?
A second.
Okay, on favor? Bob? Oh, did you want to vote? Oh,
I voted,
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
being discreet.
Oh, yes, so that's always important. Right. And moving on with, Wood and Curran.
I don't have a
8C.
report from them, but Gabe presented an
Right.
update.
Okay. Um. Anybody have any questions here?
Speaking of Woodward and Curran, is it possible to get a copy of the, permit we requested for the, Grange Hall culvert?
You know,
If they've
I
done
haven't-
that, yeah. Have they?
I'll send him an email tomorrow.
Any other questions?
Nope.
8D, downtown project. No report today.
That the downtown project report is this report from Gabe.
Mhm.
I think we've already talked about it, but we did put in the application for the main infrastructure adaptation fund. I'm not sure on the timeline. Let's see, we should hear back by late August on whether we got that money or not. We're still, I know that, Brent and Megan met with, Jake Barber this afternoon, hopefully to come to some final bid price for the project. So we're working on that, and we're working on additional funding. If we don't get the MEF funds, we're gonna also try to go after some USDA money. We should get the next iteration of the parking lot designs to review this month. That's phase 2 of the downtown project. And also they're working on the design for the water district building. Anybody have any questions about any of that? Nope.
E, 8E, Net Factory Site Reuse Committee update.
So we've been working on the Brownsfield grant. Some people came out from DEP and they had a lot of questions about the structure and the past uses. We had 2 or 3 meetings about that to try to answer their questions sufficiently. Committee members are wrapping up their direct engagement with community groups and leaders. They are taking the summer off and will regroup in the beginning of September. They continue to do outreach through some ads in the wind and try to keep the public informed. Anyone have any questions about any of that? Does everybody know what a Brownsfield grant is? And we've already discussed that, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Sticking to the paper here. All right. 9, old business. 9B, road paving discussion.
I just wanted to touch base with you all. I know that the paving is a priority. Just to update you on some of the conversations that we've been having. We're still working to try to find a paving company. I did have a conversation with Commercial Paving, and he gave me a price of $395 per ton. I don't know, if you want me to continue those conversations? And then there was some information about how Jake Stanley had bought some paving equipment. And I keep saying, well, if he has a proposal for the town, then he needs to bring something to the board. And I haven't seen anything from him. So I guess what's important to me is to try to understand how you want me and the Public Works Director to proceed. If you are interested in the commercial paving I know that just through discussions with Lushy Stanley, came to my office a couple of times. He admits that he does have issues with Island Transporter. So I don't know if there's a concern there ultimately, if he had to work with Island Transporter to get his mix out, whether there would be an issue or not. That would be my only concern.
I mean, he
And I-
doesn't work with them, or they won't work with him, or what?
He said Mr. Stanley said that he had an issue with, Island Transporter in the past, so he was concerned whether, Island Transporter would work with him. He didn't know.
Okay.
And what was the price?
$3.95 per ton, but that's the only thing that he gave me. He didn't really, for instance, for around the Island Road, he didn't give me a price for the 3 miles. He just said that agree to clean and prep the area for paving and supply materials, equipment, and labor at $3.95 per ton.
Maybe see if you could get a quote out of them for the 3 miles, or not quite 3 miles that it is.
And just as as a recollection, then the Northeast paving, formerly Lane was 532
Right.
per ton, but still, from talking to other managers, that 395 is still high. And I understand that, it's because of the island issue and it costs so much.
That's a lot less. than other
Yeah.
ones. But I'm concerned that if we don't reclaim some of that road, around the Island Road, I mean, I feel it's a waste of money to just pave 3/4 inch, whatever they,
Spring, the following spring would be as bad as it is.
but
Yeah.
like to do certain parts would be great, and
Right.
then figure out how much is it gonna cost us to reclaim like the really bad places, like in front of, just before you come to the dump,
Yeah.
coming from the
By
Pequot roadside there.
So I know in conversations with Lushy, he was talking about doing way more than a 3/4 inch.
Maybe,
Code.
maybe we should, I mean, I'm not know nothing about roads.
I mean, more or less,
They're
all we're
bad.
ever doing
Oh,
up
good.
here is a perpetual patch job.
Exactly.
We can't ever actually rebuild, and we balked at, and I'm one that balked too at it, but 1.5, almost 1.6. To actually rebuild the roads proper, we're never spending that much.
No, but we could certainly take certain specific areas that's really bad and get it, I mean,
something to mitigate it a little
Right.
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be exactly the same a year from now.
Right, but would it behoove us to have a chat with him? Or I don't know, I like to say, I'm not,
Yeah, I mean, I think Marjorie can do, you can have. those
or if you had
conversations.
questions to do
With,
Maybe we could ask him to,
with Lushy.
yeah,
I mean,
ask him,
if you have questions, would you prefer to give them to Marjorie? Or would you prefer to ask him to meet with us to discuss? I mean, we're talking about major money here.
Oh, we hard to have him come talk to us.
Or at least zoom in.
He came to see you, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just curious if you
Yeah.
all think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
we need to at least keep talking with any of it.
Yeah,
And I still think we need to, make sure that determine whether or not Jake's equipment would be an option, and I know that he was supposed to meet with Millie, and I'm not sure if that's taken place yet.
well, as Marjorie said, he hasn't gotten in touch with her and Millie hasn't said anything. So I would suggest if Jake is interested in doing some work, that he,
He just,
Do-
his defense, he just got the paper last week, so.
yeah, but,
Yeah.
he needs to
Yeah.
communicate with Marjorie.
Yeah,
And Millie
Yeah.
to get that figured out, don't you
I
think?
asked him the other day where things stood, he said he had a meeting set with Millie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
Good,
the last I heard.
Yeah.
Because, according to what I heard, he could put down a 2-inch layer.
I have no idea, but that would be important for him to
Yeah.
convey his
Yeah.
thoughts and what he would like to see done to the proper.
Well,
go
no,
through
we just need to see what, is it viable or is it not?
I agree. Okay, So maybe we, at some point in the near future, will have a conversation with commercial paving and maybe Jake, if he decides he wants to talk with us, or talk with Marjorie. Okay,
Well, I think the important thing is that he needs to bring a proposal to
Right.
this board.
Don't disagree.
okay,
We've looked at this a couple of different times, but, we found a lot of just typos and errors. And we just cleaned it up and Elizabeth felt like she made, quite a few changes and she just wanted the select board to approve it. There are no substantial changes to it, but she just wanted to make sure that the board,
I looked it over, it's not,
okay.
you know,
no, I think it's
I
good,
want to make a motion. I'm not good with it.
okay. I'm just waiting to see if everybody's ready to,
Yeah. we're fine.
okay, so you made the motion to accept the vehicle towing and impound manual? Second? Dawn, all in favor? Did you get that, Marjorie?
I'm just gonna let her pick it up.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. Just didn't want to move ahead too fast.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. 10, new business, accept donations fiscal year 2023, 2024.
These are the donations that we received throughout the year for various, for the ambulance, fire department, swap shop and library. So we put the ambulance into that reserve, the fire department, that money goes into the reserve. And the library money goes into the library reserve.
Make a motion that we accept the donations for fiscal year 2023, 2024.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everybody that has donated. They're generous. B, the Sandbar liquor license application. Make a motion that we. Do I make a motion for this?
You
don't
can make a
have to.
motion.
I can, I do.
You can make a motion.
Okay, I didn't know if I was supposed to. I move that we accept the application from the Sandbar for her liquor license renewal.
Okay.
All in favor?
We do have to have
Not
that
to-
signed.
You miss Elizabeth.
Yes.
You've done a good job. I think the hardest thing is getting them set
When they
up
go
for
away.
it.
I know. Thank you.
Great. 11, report of town manager.
The only thing I have is that the Jeff Tolman Music Award asked, or I don't know, I think that's what it's called. They asked me to let you know that their rain date is August 18th, if that's all right. The Rampage is scheduled for August 17th. But they had a meeting and decided that they should probably set up the rain date of August 18th. And they will be using the power, which they did last year, but just, they wanted to make sure that was fine. And the start time will be 4 PM instead of 5 PM. I didn't think there would be any problem with that.
You mean for the rain date?
No, I'm
both?
sorry, for the event on the 17th, they'd like
moved
to
it to
start
4.
at 4 instead of 5, but I didn't see a problem with it.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that information.
Well, it's a
That's
good
all I
thing they
had.
have a rain date. It's a good idea. Never thought of it. Okay. Is that it?
Mhm.
12, report of members.
I don't have anything.
Tom?
It's more familiar than anything else, but they have a plan or an idea on when they're gonna both go in dry and it could definitely be mowed.
Oh, we usually have Sean Chillis do it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to contact him?
No, I mean,
I-
it probably should be done at least twice during the summer, so that we don't have to do it in the fall.
If he can get in there. No, a
Uh,
lot of times they wait until after birds that might nest in the grass, but I think if they do, it's probably more up in the,
It's up in the Cat Nine Tail.
I
area.
would think, near the road in that area. So,
The other thing is the storm drains down around Main Street from the bank and up by my house are all full of sand. They haven't been pumped out or sucked out in a couple of years at least.
Mhm.
I don't remember the last time they came out and did that. Do you imagine? Was it last year
No, they didn't do it last year.
they didn't do it?
I can talk to her again.
Yeah.
There's two in front of my house, one on the Plater Hill Road side of my mailbox.
Mhm.
It's now grass covered,
Oh, yeah,
and the one in front of the bank is solid full. So,
because we have such drainage issues down there in town that,
yeah, they're probably something that's regular maintenance stuff that probably should get done.
we usually have the guy come
This
out
guy comes out with the,
big vacuum cleaner.
Yep.
Led,
I got nothing.
Dawn. Really?
Don't do it again.
Okay, Leslie,
Second.
you all set?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn second, did it get seconded, all in favor? Okay.
Did you get all the signatures on the warrant, Mark?
Yes, we did.
I know I got here late. I was looking.
Tom,
Would you like to look at?
could you take a second after? So I had a question for you.
All right, we'll see you all later.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Oh, so I have to stop this, right?
Yes.
Stop.
Go to leave and
See. Way on,
Is there a way to stop the recording? or-
just go to the end,
if you end it, it
Yep.
should stop it.
end meeting for all.